All right, my fellow agents, welcome back. It is I, X7, your host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters. Today is Seven Song Friday. We will have seven songs to vote for, at least on Spotify, but they won't be, well, since we're going to be talking about the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because I had a special request. This is a birthday present for Agent Frog, who had a milestone birthday this week. So here you go, Frog. I hope you enjoyed. Love you. And before we get too much further into everything, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this movie. Um, we're going to not really talk too much about the plot, but just let me know what you think about it, what effect it had on your life, if any, or if not any. So, having said all that, let's roll.
You've seen all kinds of movies, but you've never seen anything like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Let's do the time war again!
They're probably foreigners with ways different than our own.
I'm just a sweet transvestite.
See the Rocky Horror Picture Show. A different set of Jaws. Rated R.
And as you've just seen, that was the television trailer for the movie, which I haven't seen. I never saw them growing up as a young agent. I was only 10 years old when the movie was released in 1975. This is the 50th anniversary of the movie, and I still think that every time I see this particular title card, the next title card should say "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," which was far more my. I was 10. I wasn't going to be seeing an R-rated movie. The movie was based on the play The Rocky Horror Show, which was written also by Richard O'Brien, who plays Riff Raff, of course. And it was released on August 14th, 1975 in the US, and September 26th, 1975 August 14th was the UK, United Kingdom, and September 26th, 1975, just exactly a week from today. Shut it down next week. The budget was $1.4 million, and it was a big flop, of course, with originally. But then suddenly, people started talking back to the movie. It became interactive, and that's where you are. So we all know it's about we get that would be the lips of Patricia Quinn and the voice of Richard O'Brien singing science fiction double feature. So for the seven songs we're going to vote for, it's not going to be the real famous ones. It's going to be some of the other ones that people don't talk about all the time. So, Sweet Transvestite, The Time Warp, Science Fiction Double Feature, probably not going to be there. So you get the credits, and then, of course, everyone cheers, even though he's really an awful, awful person. And then directed by Jim Sharman, who did lots of theater and then graduated on to movies, and did also direct the sequel, Shock Treatment, which, if I can find, I'll probably review at some point in time. Now, I didn't see this till I was probably 20, 21 maybe. The first time I went was with my friend Diane Sandoval, who I really liked, but missed cues because your agent as a young man, as a young agent, was very naive. Some people would say he's still rather naive, but less so. I missed the people in the background here of the wedding. There's Brad and his buddy. I don't even know. Where is our cast? Let's see. Newly Ralph and Betty Hapshat. That's Ralph. Of course, that's Brad Majors. Yes, I'm going to pause so you can say, anyone who knows what to say there, they can. I'm not going to do it. And there is Susan Sarandon as Janet Weiss. Okay. So Barry Bostwick is Brad Majors, Susan Sarandon's is Janet, and those are, and then everyone else. The preacher was, of course, So Janet, having caught the bouquet, starts Brad to thinking, and Denton, the home of how now there is a Denton, Texas, which was the home of the wrestling Von Erichs. Yeah, a certain friend of mine who will talk about what his views of this movie early on were. They've changed, thankfully. But this is also featured in the sequel, Denton. There's even the song called Denton. So he starts singing "Damn It, Janet," and then ask her to marry him. And now they set up the crux of the plot is they're going to see their old professor, Dr. Everett V. Scott. And now we see the criminologist, played by Charles Gray, who was also in the sequel ish. He was Blowfield in the Diamonds Are Forever, and many other things. Sherlock Holmes' older brother, Mycroft, very cool. Not as big as Mycroft was supposed to have been, but be that as it may, he's very droll and very funny. So there he is. I would like, if I may, and there's Brad Majors, and off they now we're seeing. So it's kind of told in flashback, sort of, but not really. So Brad and Janet are on the road. Brad has a flat tire and then gets another and hasn't bothered to fix the spare, who hasn't been there, right? So again, I was about 20. I would say it's 20. Yeah, because Diane and I were hanging out and we decided to go see this movie. We ate at some restaurant down there in Boulder on the mall because it was a midnight movie behind on Walnut in the theater there. So it was my first time. She'd seen it because she was cooler than I was. She got food poisoning though, so she wasn't that cool. But I don't remember liking the food much, but I wasn't going to tell her. Enter at your own risk. So Brad goes off. Oh, Janet has just said, I'm coming with you. The owner of the castle might be a beautiful woman. Okay. And there's a light over at the Frankenstein place. So that's where we see Riff Raff for the first time. And there is where they get lost. This is where he should have turned. That's where they ended up. So very close. Now, Denton is not the Denton in Texas. It's just a fictional town that I'd probably like the name of. I've never seen the play, actually, and I would like to because it might be slightly different, but probably not too different. More, and there we go. So now we're going to get the first major musical number here, although they've already sang 3 songs. It's jam-packed with great songs, no doubt. And there's Riff Raff. There's his sister, Magenta. Magenta. They have a complicated relationship now, don't they? And the time has struck. They're going to do the time warp. Now, this is the song I'd heard of several years before I went, probably 5 years. I'd first heard it on the Dr. Demento show along with Sweet Transvestite. So I knew of the song. I knew where it was from, but I didn't know anything else about the movie. That would come later on as you start reading about in the monster books and magazines that it was, a parody, a homage. I didn't even talk about science fiction double theater that I have most of the movies to, and I've seen all of them. A lot of them are really good. King Kong, Curse of the Demon, or Night of the Demon. But it's just such a great song. I mean, obviously, Richard O'Brien was a huge science fiction fan, a big nerd, and watched a lot of these movies. So there's the cast of characters in, predating the colorful punk scene. Boy, I miss color in movies. I know I say that. So there's Columbia, a groupie. She doesn't get her own shout out. I don't know why, but she's one of the better characters. Most of them are pretty unlikable. So, say something, Brad. None of you know how to Madison. Look at the look on her face is like, well, I'm engaged to a dork. A dork. And then we get the introduction, probably one of the greatest introductions in the history of cinema. Janet Weiss sees him first, and there he is in all his glory. Now, the first time I saw this, I often thought, and I've thought this, that he and Paul Stanley had a lot in common for this movie. But that's just my. I mean, the Star Child was a big thing with his rather ambiguous sexuality at the time, and obviously Frank wasn't ambiguous; he just was an omnisexual, I believe. And there he is. He's got torn. I like that they're torn. All this stuff is torn. He's not in. He looks a little ratty. Um, we'll just stay where we are or go back to the car. We don't want to be any worry. Yeah, I know. I had to watch the movie. And Janet's on the rag. Yeah, I'm sorry. But it's kind of true. So I think she's laughing. I mean, she's smiling there. Riff decides to sample some of the vino. There's all sorts of things. I don't even know who that statue is. These things you find out when you're watching the movie. Now, the last time I saw this movie in the theater was, I want to say, early 2000s up at Encinitas. They showed it weekly, and they had the same crowd mostly there weekly who were all friends and knew each other. They made the experience unpleasant. I mean, I was there with a good friend of mine, and she and I had a good time, except that they yelled over every part of the movie. However, this one part made me laugh. I mean, it brought the house down. I don't know if they'd ever said it before, if they just thought of it, but somebody yelled out, "We are the world" at this scene. So that was funny, and I still remember it. That was the best part of aside from being there with Laura. I think we went and had dinner. I don't remember. It was up at Encinitas, beautiful town in Southern California. So, I mean, I got a lot of the movie the first time around, but I was still young enough that still figuring things out about, everything, life, the world, and life, the universe, and everything. So, obvious homage to many movies, The Mummy and The Bride of Frankenstein. It's too bad they didn't get to use the Kenneth Strickfaden equipment. And there's Rocky in all his glory. Now, Rocky is played by Peter Hinwood and voiced by Trevor White, or voiced by his singing voice. So he was a professional model. He only made about 4 movies, according to his life and business partner, Christopher Gibbs. So looks like he's still alive, age 79. So he did a great job here for a model. And he's put together. I mean, no wonder Frank's just having a conniption. So he's singing The Sword of Damocles. And that ain't no crime. Rocky, I didn't make him for you. Because Janet doesn't like men with a lot of muscles. Burn on Brad. And in just 7 days, they can make him a man. But holy crap, how much? If it only took him 7 days, good job. And then Eddie shows up. Now, that is a former delivery boy who was also entangled with Frank. But also, he and Columbia had a thing. And he's played by the late Meatloaf in probably his greatest performance on screen. And he apparently, most of the people who did this in the theater based their interpretation on Elvis. Elvis was in the running, was actually asked to do this and wanted to. I don't know how well that would have gone over because he would have just swamped. But he talked to Meatloaf and said, "How come you didn't base it on me?" And he said, "Well, there's only one Elvis, and that's you. I can only be me." And I think that was a wise decision. I mean, obviously there's a bit of him in here, but that can't be helped. So Frank kills him. It was a mercy killing. Janet sings out of, in the wrong place, and everyone looks at her. So there's the bed. Now, Columbia is upset. But that's where we get to. Then we cut back to the criminologist who's got weird fantasy and an excellent ECW pre-code comic book. One of the reasons there was a code, unfortunately, not their fault. And they've got closed circuit television in there. Now, Frank goes in and seduces both Brad and Janet, and there's things close, but and these two are decide that they need to torment Rocky, which is, why do you torment a man-made creation with fire? So here we go with Frank and Brad. Now he seduces both of them successfully, but apparently Janet has a problem with it. Riff tells him that Rocky has escaped. He's out running in the rain where they've released the hounds. This is all we see of the hounds. Janet goes wandering through the house because she can't find anyone. Sees Brad and Frank, and then finds the wounded and forlorn and who's been tortured Rocky, and then she starts singing, of course, the her song "Touch Me," because they realize these two, who have a complicated relationship as well, realize she's a virgin, but not anymore. I would think she wasn't after being with Frank, but who knows? So then they find that here comes Dr. Scott. There's a lot of Superman jokes being played, even with Brad, because he takes off his glasses, and it's very, very Clark Kent style. And there's a gravity ray that pulls him around, and the girls just look at him like, what's going on? And Frank's in his full punk regalia right now. I mean, 2 years before, a couple years really before punk. Although the Ramones were dressing this way, so once again, I'm sure that they knew about this because they toured England by then. And now everyone finds each other. Janet is with Rocky. Dinner is served because Dr. Scott is there to look for his nephew, Meatloaf, Eddie. But as we find out, Eddie is a very tender subject. There's Brad gets it, Janet gets it, Columbia gets it, Rocky doesn't get it. So we get another song. What is the name of that one? We got I can make Hot Patootie, Eddie, just the name of the song. So then we get to see because Evil Knievel, Rat Bike of the Month. Where's Kamen Rider? I mean, Evil Knievel kind of looks like him. Actually, he looks more like Big One from Jaka, but the Sentai. Now she's mourning Eddie. Makes you cry. And I did. And there's Eddie, who's That's about the goriest thing in the movie, though, really. These two are kind of reprehensible because they laugh at everyone's pain. And now we get Planet Janet. Is that what it is? Planet Schmanet, Wise Up Janet Weiss, with one line by Janet. Planet Hot Dog, because everyone shows up and Frank uses the Medusa Ray, which was really odd since Lilith and I had just been talking about that. Now, incidentally, Agent Frog thinks Frank is really sexy. You'll have to ask her about that if you ever talk to her. Everyone gets petrified, and apparently the Medusa Ray takes off all their clothes. Rocky himself there. There's Brad. The siblings to do their elbow thing. And now we're getting to the final action of the story here, where we get like 3 in a row. This is Rose Tint My World, and Don't Just Dream It, Be It, the D Medusa Ray, just written in chalk. And they're, I wouldn't say they were influenced by Kiss, but because that's just clown makeup. RKO Radio Picture, the company that released King Kong, of course, that we would have heard in science fiction double picture, science fiction double feature. Geez. And there you go. Even Dr. Von Scott's been changed by the Ray because he's got stockings and high heels on. I can't imagine how doing all this choreography in high heels. Suddenly, Riff and Magenta tell Frankie they're going home. And we get another song, I'm Going Home, because we've gone through Rose to My World, Don't Dream It, Be It, Wild Ting Ting, Going Home, and then there's Superheroes, which I've only heard once or twice, and it's in the UK. The movie runs 108 minutes in the US. It doesn't really say how long and 100 minutes. Maybe 100. Maybe I just saw it wrong. Eights and zeros can. So, but we did. But Superheroes isn't in the one I saw. But then finally he's like, "Nope, you're not going with us. You're staying put." Magenta gets killed with the three-ray zapper. Frank gets killed. Rocky decides that his creator. They do a King Kong thing. He's sort of immune to the ray because he's not really human. He's an artificial life form, probably an android. It's never really explained. And Riff says prepare. I think he says prepare the transmat beam, which is a Doctor Who reference, and I'm sure as a kid he saw that. And of course, Magenta's hair is done as the bride's. So they zap him. They fall into the water. They tell her. Riff says, "Everett, you get out, or because we're leaving for Transylvania, and that's the whole castle." Frank's dead. The castle blasts off. So the only people that get a real happy ending are Riff and Magenta, and they're happy they're going back to Transylvania, planet Transylvania, not in Romania. And that's it. The criminologist says, goodbye, and we fade off. So it took several viewings for me to catch all of the fun stuff in here, the nerd, the stuff that appeals to me. I mean, aside from the great music. I don't watch the movie too often. I do have the Blu-ray, but this copy did come from the Internet Archive because my Blu-ray player to get screen grabs from was on the fritz. But that's our movie, and I thought that this was hilarious that they had to put that in there. Tomorrow is Shaolin Saturday, and I hope you've enjoyed this, Frog, and happy birthday. And until my next assignment, this is X7 signing off, phasing out.
You've seen all kinds of movies, but you've never seen anything like the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Let's do the time warp again.
They're probably foreigners with ways different than our own.
I'm just a sweet transvestite.
See the Rocky Horror Picture Show. A different set of jaws. Rated R.